Welcome, everybody, to Illuminate, Navigate, Radiate, a journey of emotional resilience. I'm your host, Brandon, and coming at you with our last journey segment of May. So I have another great guest today talking about his sobriety journey and kind of how that looked in his life and what he's been through to get to the point he is at today. So I just want to welcome Jacob from Wisconsin to the podcast. How you doing today?
Doing really good, Brandon. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. And I appreciate you taking the time to jump on and share your experience. Obviously, I think it's a really big thing when people share experiences and share what they've been through, because it just shows we're not alone, right? As we go through these different challenges, as we face these different obstacles, it shows that, even as much as our mental health, our addictions tell us we're alone, there's a lot of people that we can look up to and a lot of people we can reach out to when we're going through those tough moments. So I really appreciate you being open and willing to do this. And, just something I like to ask people starting off is just, where do you see the importance in sharing your experiences, and sharing your journey, with this stuff?
Well, I think for me, I found that for me personally, it was really helpful for me to hear other people's stories. And so I admired, like different, even celebrities, influencers that were open and honest about their struggles, and they'd share their stories, and it kind of made me feel like I wasn't alone. Like, wow, this person I relate to them, and I think that it's one of those things where sometimes when we have a problem with um, alcohol specifically is what I'm familiar with, is that we tend to if we do have a problem, sometimes we hide it a little bit. We're not really sure. We don't want people to think we have a problem. We don't want to be labeled as something. And so this was something that I struggled with too. I was a little bit afraid of admitting. It took me a while, to admit that I had a problem, because I was embarrassed. I was ashamed of it a little bit. But like I said, I started hearing those stories, and I found those to be helpful. I had a close friend that I could talk to that had struggled in the past but had overcome it, and just be able to talk to them. It was like an interchange of encouragement. We we felt like we could relate to each other, and it helps to not go through this alone, And so slowly I started to maybe open up a little bit more about it to friends and family. And I found, good support doing that. And so then one day I decided to start like a social media page called Feel Sober Good. And my plan was really to keep it more private. It was going to be kind of just like, I just wanted to have a place where maybe I could contribute a little bit. And I didn't even have my name on there. It was just very private, right? That was my intention, I guess. Mainly because I still was kind of a little bit hesitant and to let the world know that, just because of fear, and so then I can remember my very first post. I sent it out, and it was, again, like I had this private page. I had like a few followers, hardly any, and I just sent something out because I wanted to try it out and just have a little bit of a voice there and support the sober community that we call ourselves, I guess. And then, like, later the next day, or actually it was the same day, my wife got a message from a friend, and she said, "I just saw Jacob's post, and I really appreciate what he said. And I've had some struggles with alcohol, and I'm motivated to try to quit again." And which was really, that was like, wow, that was great, But I was like, how did she find my page, And what I didn't realize is there was a the setting on Instagram where it shares to your personal too. So my intention here was this private thing. Well, then I sent it out to all my friends and acquaintances and everybody, So I was like, oh, I guess the cat's out of the bag now. But I guess my point of what I'm saying is that once I did that, and at that point my I was stomach my heart kind of dropped in my stomach. I was like, oh boy. But I found such great support. Like there was like everyone was very there's so many likes, loves, cares. It went to the Facebook, I believe, and then so many nice comments. And then my private messages started going. There was so many people that were reaching out to me. Some just saying they were proud of me. Some people were saying that they had struggles and that they appreciated that I was open about it, and that um they wanted some help to try to how did I quit, And so I guess that was kind of the starting point where I thought to myself, wow, there's a lot of people that are dealing with this, and so by being open about it, I felt I perhaps gave them like a safe space, a safe place where they could go to someone, that was open about their mistakes, so they felt a little more comfortable to be open about their struggles, and try to get the help they need. And that's really what my mission is, really was to help people, with this, because I've seen both sides of it now. Like I understand, like I'm like a judgment-free source where somebody needs to come to me. I understand the appeal of alcohol. I understand how it can turn into fun and games, and then turn into someone you don't recognize anymore. And it can become addictive, and you don't intend it to be, but it can get there. And so I see that, but now I see the other side of it, and man, it's awesome being free from alcohol. And I was always the type of person that never really could understand why someone didn't want to have a drink. Like, man, they're missing out on fun. Like this is good time, And so I never I couldn't imagine not drinking. I just, it was something I just couldn't imagine. And man, now I can't imagine ever wanting to go back, because it's so much better on this side. And so I see both sides of it, and I understand the struggles, and I see the benefits. I understand the dangers more. I've read some books, and just seeing a lot of facts and statistics about alcohol and the dangers of it. I'm surprised it's even legal. When I was kind of, I knew it wasn't always, the best thing for you, but I mean, it's really, it can be really dangerous, and I don't think a lot of people realize that, and it can sneak up on you, and one day you might be in the hospital fighting for your life if you're not careful. And so my hope is, is just to help create awareness, support people that are trying to maintain an alcohol-free lifestyle, and or trying to quit. And at the same time, it keeps me accountable, holds myself accountable, and it keeps me like focused on that I don't want to go back, because I there's been a few times where you might have a craving or something like that, and the fact that I have, I feel like this holds me accountable to that I'm not even going to take a chance on it, So that's kind of why I choose to share, because I feel that I've seen some of the benefits of being open and honest. And I kind of wish, like, when I think back when I was struggling, man, if I would have had somebody else, someone that was close to that I knew was struggling, maybe, or had overcome it, and maybe they had, but they maybe were more private about it, which is fine too, because not everybody wants to be real open about it, right? So there's no fault to them, but I may have, turn to that person, and so I hope that maybe I can be that for someone else, if they need someone to turn to and they are afraid to come forward, afraid of what people might think. They could, at least I could maybe give them some guidance or just some encouragement. Try to and that's really my mission now.
Yeah, no, and I think that's, that shows the importance with what you kind of just said, right? Of if you saw that at maybe a certain point in your life, maybe you could have turned to them a little earlier. And that's why I think the power in sharing is so important, right? You're another resource for somebody that could relate to you on different levels. And so maybe that's easier for them to turn to you. And also just like the embarrassment, right, that you talked about. And I know feeling that kept me where I didn't want to say I had a problem because then I was embarrassed by it, right? I didn't want to be
Yeah.
seen as weak, or I didn't want to be seen as like this took over my life. And so I did whatever I could to hide that. And so I think when
Yeah.
we can get past that, right, when we can open up a little bit and share that, and I think hopefully, right, as hopefully, I'm sure it's part of what you're doing, and hopefully, kind of what I want to do as well is just make it easier so people aren't as embarrassed to say like, yeah, especially with alcohol. Alcohol is, I think, a little trickier, obviously I was a heroin addict, and people are always going to look at that and be like, oh, you should probably stop doing that. Whereas with alcohol, there's like, people don't always recognize, like I've had people like, oh yeah, I'm clean and sober. And they're like, well, you can't just have one. And I'm like, no, I'm like, I can't. And they're
Mhm.
like shocked by that still. So alcohol is almost a little trickier because it's so acceptable in society, right? And so I think it's harder for people to admit they have a problem because then everybody's out drinking. Why am I the one with the problem with it? And so I think that's, especially just speaking to alcohol, that's an important part of it. Is just saying like, yeah, it's all right if you have an issue with it and you need to get help for it.
Right.
And so I think that's really important.
Yeah, and I think um, some people don't realize they even have a problem because
Hmm.
it is so widely accepted.
Yep.
They maybe look down on a heroin addict, but yet they have a real problem themselves if they looked in the mirror. And because alcohol is just as destructive as heroin, it's highly addictive, but it's just socially accepted.
Hmm.
And that was an eye opener for me when that was something I learned through reading some of the different books that um, that helped me and kind of helped me understand the dangers and that sort of thing. And so, but yeah, I think it is hard when now even like I'm in a good place, like I can be around people that are drinking.
Okay.
I don't like to see anyone abusing it because I worry about them, but I'm not judging them. I just worried about them, um, but you are sometimes the odd one out, and it's like, and so when you're used to, especially in the early goings of it, um, that was a big adjustment, trying to like, you know, be, what not feel awkward,
Hmm. Yeah.
because you're the
Yep.
only one not participating, and not that anybody's even getting out of control or anything, so, and or anything like that. It's just you're around it, and so you just, but now it's gotten where you just grab a soda or you grab a, you know, water or something, and yeah, I'm just fine.
Yeah. And just to that point is, I think that's where it's really an important thing to talk about, because people look, I definitely got different reactions with being, when people found out I was doing heroin. It wasn't just drinking, it wasn't just smoking weed, it was like hard drugs. And I got clean, and I coached soccer early on in my recovery, and so I was probably like a 6 months to a year clean at that point. And one of the parents found out I was in recovery, and so they went and complained to my boss, tried to get me fired, and it was a whole thing. But it was funny because I remember one day she was coming to pick up her kid, and she was like, "Oh yeah, I just had a couple drinks." and then she's the one who went and complained about me.
Right,
So
right.
I think that the society's way of looking at it does make it a little trickier, and it can be I think it can be a more difficult thing to say I have a problem with alcohol than obviously if you're doing hard drugs, most likely you've got a problem.
Mhm.
Because you don't
Yeah,
just see people out doing that too often.
right.
But yeah, so just kind of going into your journey and your adventure with alcohol, like was that something you were introduced into an early age? Was it something that when you were 21, that's when it kind of started? How did your relationship with alcohol kind of start off?
Yeah, it probably was, once you move out and you're on your own, it becomes kind of like, you know, you you have that more freedom, so you maybe um and it seems like fun and games, you're just goofing around with your buddies or whatever. Um and so sometimes it's just can be just kind of fun at first, and and then it kind of can go through stages too, where you kind of mature a little bit, and then it becomes like you know f- where for me, my work can be kind of stressful at times, or you're just dealing with life, and so then you you use it to kind of help relax you. You feel like you earned this drink, from a
Mhm.
stressful day, and you got to have it, and then that one drink turns into two and three and or whatever. It just becomes where you kind of you get that initial good feeling, and then you kind of chase it the rest of the time, and the more you you have it, the more it becomes where you seems like it's an addictive substance, and then it got really bad, I think. um and I've heard this from a lot of people, just during COVID. That's when it it seems like, if I really pinpointed it, I can kind of see just before that it was starting to maybe get a little bit more than I should have, but not completely out of control, or not. And I sh- and and then during COVID, it was like there's a lot of stress just around that, and then work was very stressful because I was essential worker, so I'm still going out and working, and and our particular business was quite busy. Um, and so and it was sometimes hard to find people willing to work in that environment when there's um, a- you know full of customers and that sort of thing. And so you're working from open to close, running ragged, and it's like, and you can't go anywhere, so you just are at home, and uh, and so that's when it starts to get where you get where it became kind of an issue. And then add on to that, you don't when you've had some drinks, maybe you start to not eat the healthiest, later at night, you
Mhm.
know and and so then that's not healthy for you. And so it just kind of that's kind of how it went for me. It just kind of slowly progressed. I think one of the things we kind of talked about prior, just briefly here before we were doing this, is just how, like, you never intend for it to get to this point. Um, you just it, if you knew that this is how the outcome was going to be, it's just like somebody that's homeless, that's got a paper bag on the streets. They never intended for that, but it just took control of them. And so um, same with any of us, when we get to that point, if we really saw could see down the road and really think about how it was gonna how it could what could happen to us, we wouldn't pursue that. It's just it can just slowly creep up on you, and And that's the thing I think is kind of scary about alcohol, is because it's so widely accepted, is it can creep up on you, and um and then just like all of a sudden you could be really sick, and and so it's you just never know. So I mean, it's one of those things that it can be very dangerous. It can be, it can be people that are very responsible with it, and they can, you know, handle it just well. Um, my wife's a great example. She doesn't need to. She can still have drinks, um, but she can stop at one, and she's not thinking about the next drink. She doesn't have to have another. Where that's not the same for everyone. So it's not like that for everyone, and that was something I had to learn too, is that not everybody has the same relationship with it as that I did. But I do think that there are a lot of people um, that are having challenges with it, and they're not sure if they have a problem. They're not sure what to do about it, and so that's why we share our stories, to try to give them something to look at as another option,
Yeah.
if they are.
And it's kind of like, like you mentioned, we had talked about it a little bit, that kind of slow burn with it, right? And excuse me, but with alcohol, because I think it's so acceptable that you don't even, there's not even that many signs of it getting worse in your mind, right? Because I remember just like getting into college and being part of a soccer team, and that was a big, we were always drinking, and nobody saw a problem with it. And then I
Mhm.
ended up getting worse and doing harder drugs, but even through that, um, drinking was something I always went back to. If I got off hard drugs for a little bit, then I was always drinking, and people were always drinking with me because they were like, "Oh, you got a problem with hard drugs? Here's another beer." And really, it was the same thing. It was, I just,
Mhm.
like you just said, I couldn't stop at one. I couldn't even fathom just drinking one. Like, that didn't make sense to me. Like, my wife's the same way. She'll have a glass of wine or a beer or something, and I'm like, how, in my mind it's just like, how do you, like, what's the point? You're not getting blackout, you're not taking down 5 or 6. What's even the point of doing that? And so it's that, I think that slow burn is really hard to kind of face, right? And even if you start to notice like a sign of it, you're like, oh no, I'm good. Like, it's not a big deal. It's just I messed up that one time, or I made that one mistake. Like, I can keep going. Did you have any, like, maybe little signs or little things like start creeping up that you were like, this is like, or maybe I'm doing too much, or I don't remember what happened last night, or I do think that's a good point of, like, because I was that way, if not eating well and eating late at night. Like, I definitely did
Yeah.
a lot of that. But like, were there any like little things that you started to notice that you were like, maybe popped in your mind, but then you're like, oh, not a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah. I think what comes to my mind is something that can happen. Um, is sometimes I'd go to make myself another drink, and my wife would say, do you really need another drink? She'd, out of concern, and she was right. And sometimes your natural tendency is to get a little defensive, like, I'm
Yep.
fine, like, I'm just at home, I'm not going anywhere. Like, why can't I just have another drink? And so it started that way, and it's in no way am I faulting her for doing that, because that's what we do for someone that we care about, is we express some concern, like, are you sure you needed that? Or um but I could tell that it was starting to, she was noticing, and she was reminding me that I didn't need to have that drink. And so what started to happen is you start to hide it, and so you have um, you start to have you know put on a show, so to speak, in that you maybe have another you're sneaking another, you're making them a little stronger, or that I can only have, if I have more than two, she's going to say something, so I'm going to make this one a little stronger, or I'm going to have one off to the side here that I can sip on, when she's not looking, and I'm just being honest, I mean, I'm embarrassed to admit that, but that's just what happens, you can start to and start to hide it, and that's when it can get dangerous, because you realize that you can hide it, and then now, you know, you can start hiding it more often, and start getting ideas where you might need it, and you can just, I'll just hide it a little bit. And then it's funny how your mind doesn't think like, hey, this is kind of messed up that you're doing that,
Yeah, it's just like, hey, just hide it over there. You'll be okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like this is, yeah, you might have a problem here, dude. You just kind of tell yourself that, you justify it somehow in your head,
Mm.
and then it's like, man, at some point something's got to give here. You think you start, that's, I was getting to that point where it's like, man, something's got to give, and and but I didn't know how to go about giving it up. I really didn't. I was kind of, I was worried about it. I didn't know what to turn to. I was embarrassed. I didn't know what people would think. Um,
Yeah.
so I think that's for, especially for anyone, but I mean, guys, we like to try to seem like we're tough and we can handle anything, and
Yeah,
and
no, and just to kind of go with that hiding thing, I know you had mentioned earlier, like just like trying to figure out if you have a problem with that. Like usually, if you're having to hide something, especially from the people you love, and like lie straight to their face, basically, that probably means there's some type of issue there.
yep,
And I think that's like just a good sign, and just with you saying justifying, I think we can find any justification, right? Like I could justify some of the craziest things, or I could justify just like how I needed more and why I needed more, and it's been a long day, or something went wrong, or I'm just like I'm freaking out on the inside, so I got to do something. And our mind will play that trick on us of like, you can hide it and you can justify it and everything will be okay, and everything will be
hmm,
okay, everything will be okay until it's not, right?
right,
Until
right, right,
it's not okay anymore.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and then it's like, yeah, you can get where it's like we're gonna go out for dinner, and it's like I'm gonna have a quick one, before we go out, and sometimes it's that what was one of the biggest things that I noticed was a lot of the reason why you drank was this, yeah, stress and anxiety. Like you just would felt like, oh, I just need it just to calm my nerves for a minute. Like it's just been one of those days, and usually it's like every day you figured out some reason why there was
Mhm.
some reason something happened today that I earned this today, or I need this, and 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 so but it was amazing to me how much your anxiety like goes away when you quit drinking. I mean, it doesn't happen like instantly, like the first day you stop. It takes a little while,
Oh yeah.
but but like with time, that's when for me it was like, for me, like once I had quit, I kind of thought, well, maybe someday I can moderate again. Maybe someday I can just have that one or two glasses. And so I didn't do it, but I thought, well, maybe someday I'm just going to
Mhm.
give myself some time. Um, and and it was probably about 7 or 8 months into it where it was like I was really noticing how like I didn't have any anxiety anymore, and like how clear minded I was, and like just something with it just felt different. I felt so much more powerful. Like I felt in control of my life again, and not like felt like I was like a slave to wanting to have that drink. And so it's like when you feel how good that feels, and you wake up refreshed, and you're like ready to go for the day, and um, doesn't mean you don't have bad days. I've had a few days where like it's really stressful. Where in the past I know I would have
Oh
where I
yeah.
would have turned, but you know, instead I do some push-ups and I say a prayer and I'm good, and it's like such a more healthy way to like cope with it. And so it's just that's really been eye-opening. And you hear we start seeing like so many statistics about other people that have had the experience of it's not for every it doesn't happen not for everyone, but for a large majority, they'll tell you that their anxiety almost vanished. It was like when you drink, it was like pouring gasoline on your anxiety on a fire.
Mhm.
It actually gets worse, or you might delay it for a little bit, and then the next morning it's
Yeah.
worse. And so then that was one of the biggest eye openers, and I hear that a lot, that people will say when they need a drink, it's, well, I have such anxiety, and stress, and I can relate to that. I had that too, but you might find that that can go away if you actually eliminated what you were using to cope with it.
Yeah, well, I mean, we convince ourselves that's what we need, right? In those moments. I know, I wouldn't go out and do anything without, a drug or a drink in me, and I just want to interact with people because I would just tell myself, oh, I'm so anxious, I can't be in that environment, so I gotta, do something to take the edge off, right? I gotta just have a little bit, which turned into a lot most of the time, but that's just how it went. And to your point, that's been a really powerful thing. Is like I might still get anxiety when I'm doing some stuff. For one, it's not as intense. It's not going to keep me from doing it. And two, I just know like, okay, well, once I get started, this is going to go away. Because I've
Mhm.
learned that like, oh, okay, I just got to put myself in these environments and I'll be fine. It's not going to be, these environments aren't going to be something that I need to get so worked up about. I'm going to go have a drink. And I can relate to that, like what you were saying with the moderation thing, right? And which is funny being an addict and then, just thinking about that. But when I was in rehab, that first little bit, I was, I'm gonna get off hard drugs, but I'm gonna get out. I'm still gonna smoke and drink. Like I'm gonna smoke weed. I'm still gonna drink because it's not that big of a deal. And as that time went on, and I had to approach hard drugs and alcohol a little bit differently, just because like alcohol is, I think, a little bit different with we talked about the society thing and just the how acceptable it is. And it was a different type of mentality approaching that. And I had to just realize like, oh, my life is really good, I don't need to go back to
Mhm.
getting blackout drunk, making bad decisions. And I convinced myself, all right, if I have one, I know I'm gonna have more, or I'm gonna start drinking, and eventually that's not gonna be good enough for me. So I'm gonna go back to the harder stuff I was doing. But it's just funny how, especially early on, we get in that where it's that initial mindset. I can figure this out eventually, right?
Mhm.
It's still in
Yeah.
us to try to tell ourselves we can figure it out as we go.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
but what was that one of those moments that kind of kicked off your recovery, and where you had maybe to face it and say like, yeah, I gotta, this is where I gotta at least start trying to do something different.
Yep. Um, well, it kind of goes back to what I was saying about how it sneaks up on you, and then um, you get to a point where it, you could be in the hospital fighting for your life, and that's where I was at. That's what kind of happened to me. Um, I was starting to have some health symptoms where like sometimes my heart was racing, or I was having my discomfort in my legs and tingling and different things like that. And that was kind of those were now knowing that now those were warning signs right away that I was headed in the wrong direction, but I didn't want to think that it was related to alcohol. And then one day I just wasn't feeling real good, and I was in at work, and I work with my dad my dad and I work together, and I just said, I'm not feeling so good. And he's like, he could tell something wasn't right, and he says, you need to get to the hospital like right away. Like, you need to call someone and get this checked out. Something's not right. And that's when it became real. Like, that's when I was very sick. I ended up being diagnosed with cirrhosis, liver cirrhosis. And essentially at that point, based on everything, I had lost like 60 pounds, which is crazy. I mean, if you think about it, I lost like 60 pounds. I was very jaundiced for a while there, which I was very self-conscious about.
Mm.
I was basically given about 3 to 6 months, maybe a little more to live if I didn't get a liver transplant. So it was a scary time. So I guess my point is just how like if you look, I can look back at pictures, and like a couple nights before I was out to dinner at a function or something and had no idea that my life was about to change in like 2 days, and so that's why one of my posts on my page that really hits deep with me, that was just that the reason why I am so open about things, why I speak so loudly about this subject, is because the silence almost killed me.
Mm.
And so it was a scary time. It was a dark time for me. I ended up needing to look for some alternative forms of treatment, because the transplant wasn't going to work for me in my situation. And so my wife, I give her a lot of credit, all the credit for searching, because I was too weak to really look, and I kind of started to almost lose hope, and she found some amazing functional medicine doctors, and they use like natural methods, supplements, different treatments, like an ALA treatment, which is alpha lipoic acid infusion, and that like helps heal your organs.
Mm.
And I used some of these natural methods. I worked with those doctors. They both were just awesome, and and they helped me a lot. And I started to heal, and my liver started to heal, and then I slowly I started getting better. I had a personal trainer that helped me get started in the gym again. And that was a big thing, because like I told you, I lost all that weight, and I was pretty weak. I couldn't even pick up my own youngest daughter, which was pretty hard to deal with, and not be able to hold her. And I remember sitting on the couch, and I'd see my daughters running around outside playing catch with my brother-in-law, and I'm thinking, man, will I ever be able to do that again, And so it was a tough, it was a long road, but I fought really hard. I had a lot of support. I give God a lot of credit for helping me through it. A lot of friends, like I said, a lot of family, that were there for me through it all, and then getting, like I said, getting back into the gym. I was able to get my strength back. And so I've just been really focused in on trying to be, healthier, and 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 then it really it was around the time when I started, like, things started to turn the corner, where things started to look up again. That's when I started realizing, like, that there was a lot of that life was a lot better without alcohol, and, like, even, like, just going to the gym, like, having the energy to do that, and it's such a more healthy way. And my wife is very supportive. um I try to go like 3 times a week, and after work, and and so that I can that's a way for me to cope in a healthy way with stress and stuff like that, and always feel so much better. And so so now it's really a miraculous turnaround. If you would have seen me about a year ago, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, honestly, I'm so fortunate. I'm so thankful. Um, I worked really hard, and I had a lot of good support, a lot of good help, to get me where I'm at today. And so now, like, now it's really, my focus is really on sobriety and sharing the story and trying to help others to avoid what I went through, because I'm fortunate I made it through, and I've actually talked to a few people who have had some issues that haven't made it through, or at least family members. I was thinking about that too. I was going to mention that too. Is just, even if us personally don't deal with addiction or these issues, we probably know somebody who does. A close friend or a family member or someone we love, and I've had opportunity to talk to different ones. Because I've been more open about it, I feel they've come to me kind of sometimes for advice, or um, different things that maybe help me through it. And but some people didn't have lost the battle of it, and that hurts me, like, a lot. Like, every time I hear that, it's crushing, because I know it could have been me. So that's why I'm so open about this. That's why it's so important to me, because I don't want anybody to go through it. And I was just not aware. I was just oblivious to. I thought it was invincible. I didn't think that anything like that would happen to me. And here, I'm 39, and it's like it life can change in a second, and it's like, this is something preventable. Like, I could have prevented this. And alcohol wasn't the only reason for my liver issues, but it was a big contributing factor. And so that's kind of in a nutshell, or a quick recap of
Yeah.
what
So
I went through.
when you got diagnosed, was that your last drink? Like, either right before then, or was that the last drink you had?
Yep. Yeah, it would have been the March 9th, 2023 is my sobriety date. And so it was so in my case, like, I I hit rock bottom, out clearly. And I've heard this topic, and I've I'm kind of like you. I'm curious about different things, so I'm listening to different. I like to hear different perspectives on things, because some people haven't had to hit rock bottom, and they've been able to quit, and I think that's awesome, that they can do that. And I think if you can avoid rock bottom, by all means. Like,
Do it.
some people, they're like, well, I could take alcohol or leave it. I'm like, then you should totally leave it, man. It's so awesome without it. Like, don't even have it anymore. But if you can do that, but for me, I kind of, unfortunately, I kind of feel like I had to hit rock bottom for me to really wake up. and so for me, and for some people, that's what happens to people. You hit rock bottom, and there's something about coming out of that is so it's just life changing. Like, my perspective on life is so different. It was the wake up call I needed. So it was like, I call it like one of the best worst things I ever went through, because it's made me who I am today, a better person. And I'm working every day to be a better husband, a better father, better friend. I'm more compassionate. I'm more. I was, a lot of times, you get numb when you use alcohol or some type of substance like that. You just kind of become numb to your feelings.
Yep.
And I feel like more like an authentic person. Like, I feel like more like yeah, I have feelings now, and that was new. Having feelings, like I'm sad today, like, well, or like I'm happy. I'm not used to. I usually could overcome that, and now I have to sit and think about it and sit and face it. But there is some. As hard as that can be, it makes you feel human. That's what we are. Like, that's part of being who we are, and having feelings, and it makes us more sympathetic. When I see other people going through trials or different things, it doesn't have to even be alcohol related or addiction related. It can just be going through a health issue. You just have a little more sympathy for them and for the family, and understanding what they might be going through, a little bit, and so that you can be a support for them.
Yeah, no, I love that. Just kind of like what you hitting on, the feelings, the emotions, being more compassionate, just really feeling more authentic, and I think that's um, a really important thing to think about when either you've been smacked in the face and you have a problem, or if you're just thinking that, like, your couple of drinks every night after work or whatever isn't a big deal because you're not blacking out all the time, or maybe you don't get a DUI. But those are a lot of the benefits that you get with just giving that stuff up, because like you said, it numbs you. And that was a huge reason I kept using, was because I wanted to be numb. I didn't want to feel my stuff. I didn't want to, have these emotions. And I remember just being in rehab, and I hadn't gone a day without being high or drunk for probably right around 10 years. And I just had I was crying all the time. I had so much stuff coming back into my mind, and feeling so much that I just I love it though. Like, and I truly love that aspect of not even always feeling the good stuff, but being able to feel sad. Like you said, oh, today's been a bad day, or I'm sad, I'm upset. But being able to actually feel that and understand where that's coming from and why I feel that way, is been so much more powerful. And I learned more about myself. I'm able to be more authentic. I'm able to have more self growth because I understand what, like, puts me in those moods, or what's going on around me, to where I can feel that empathy or that compassion for other people. And so I love that, and I think that's such a huge benefit. Obviously, there's a lot of things that you can see when you give up. Like you said, you're going to the gym, you look good, you feel good. You're able to have better relationships, and there's some of this external stuff that people can see, and they're like, oh yeah, I want that. But I really feel like those internal things where you can feel that stuff more authentically is been the most powerful things that have changed in my life, getting clean. So I really like that you hit on that there. And and I'm just kind of curious, did you ever try like a AA type thing, since you've been sober? Was that ever something that you tried out or went into, or anything like that?
No, I did not. I didn't have to do that. Um, I did talk to, like, a therapist for a while,
Mhm.
about my situation. And I think at that point I still was a little bit in denial of that I had a problem. So, like, I probably would talk his ear off now than before.
Yeah.
I wouldn't really talk as much. Like we're like, I don't know if we need to keep meeting, because I don't really say a whole lot about. But but now I'm been more open about it, and so so that was that did help. I did have somebody I talked to, but at that point, I've really found the most help talking to um, ones that can relate, talking to family members, and and also sharing stories and just encouraging and hearing other people's stories on Instagram, that have went through similar situations, and or some that just have different perspectives on things, and it helps. It really helps, and I think, if you notice too, like when you're not, the other thing is like I always had to have an excuse to drink, so like, okay, I gotta mow the lawn, so I'm gonna have a drink, or gonna watch the game, so I'm gonna have a drink, or
Mm.
and you aren't as productive, you just like, you get tired, and then it's like you don't feel like doing, like, I want to, you have all this plans for the weekend, I'm gonna do all this stuff, and then you're just like, and you don't get anything done. And I just found like so much more like energy, and like, you know um and so many, a lot of times, like, I lost a lot of weight because I was sick, but I've also I've gained some back in a healthy way, but I have kept it at a healthy level, going to the gym, exercising. My skin is a lot better. Like, I used to get really red. I'm very clear complexion, and so I'd get really red in the face. And so my skin has got healthier. My hair is curly. Like, my hair was never curly before. So there's just like so many, like, it's just little things that you don't even realize that we're just like, there's so many. That's why I think, if, like, why there's so many people that are sober, are like, so, like, a lot of people are, not all, but a lot of people are very vocal about it and celebrate it and talk about it, because it's so wonderful. You want other people to, like, experience it, because it's just, there's so many benefits to it.
Yeah, and it's funny just saying that, like, finding different reasons, a game or mowing the lawn, or it's hot out, going to the beach, whatever it was, whatever we could use to find that reason. Those things are just so much more enjoyable too, like
Yeah.
not being drunk. And I would do that high, so I just couldn't be productive, because I would do some some hard drugs and then probably be passed out somewhere for like a day or two. But like, to be able to have those things in my life is so wonderful, and being able to enjoy, like, actually have a conversation with somebody, and being able to then remember it the next day, right?
Yeah.
Instead of somebody being like, hey, you remember doing this, or
Yeah.
just waking up and feeling better, because I'm not having, my body's not trying to drain out whatever I put into it the day before.
Mhm.
And so, like you said, and I was talking to somebody about it earlier, how it it it's sometimes it's weird to say I'm grateful I went through some of the things I went through. There's definitely things that were really, really tough, that didn't only just affect me, but affected other people around me. So it's hard to say, like, I'm grateful, but I'm grateful for what it taught me and what I got out of it, because
Mhm.
as somebody in recovery, like you were just talking about, we're happy about that. There's so many good things that we see in that, because we're not putting that substance in our body, and then we also, like, we start noticing those little things, or we're intentionally trying to work on those little things. And so there's a lot of self growth there that not everybody gets to go through,
Mhm.
and when you're able to go through that and have that, it can just, I just, like you were saying, it can bring so much joy, and it's, I'm happy, I'm positive, almost
Mhm.
to where it annoys people sometimes. With
Yeah.
like, sometimes my wife needs to tell me, all right, I don't need you to give me the positive spin. I just need you to listen and agree with me right now. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
I hear
that's fair.
Yeah, I hear
and
you.
and so I think it's, I like that you hit on just how wonderful it can be as we work on that and continue that and stack up those days, those weeks, those months, those years, because it can bring so much positivity to your life.
Right. And you feel so much present. Like you feel like when you're talking to your wife, like you feel present. Like I'm guessing, because I know I do. Or like
Oh yeah.
with my kids, we go for a hike, and you just feel, you take in those moments a little bit more. Like you feel like you're a part of it, and you're taking it in, and it's not. You don't have like it's just real life. I mean, it sounds so simple, but it it's just wonderful. It's amazing.
Yeah, and it does sound simple, and that's why like it's kind of it's I don't know if sad's the right word, but that not everybody gets to experience that simplicity of it, right? And not everybody's aware of like, oh, if I change these little things, and maybe it's not always drugs or alcohol. It could be different things as well. But if I don't change these little things, then I love that you just used the word present, right? You're present in those moments because those are what's special in life is being able to be present for us, it's our wives or our kids. For other people, it could just it could be their parents, could be their siblings, could be their friends. Like it's just being present in that moment with people and being able to authentically be there. And I love that because I wasted so much time with family because every time I was in a moment, it didn't matter what I was doing. I was trying to figure out how I was going to get high when I left, or how I was going to sneak into the bathroom to shoot up, or pull out the little bottle in my pocket and chug it down, and then I got to wrap it up in toilet paper and hide it in the trash can,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
thinking about that next high or that next drink
Hmm.
took me out of so many moments of my life. It's kind of insane thinking about it.
Hmm. Yeah. I know. That's if there's the there's certainly regrets. I mean, and that's probably one of them is that you know is is that I wasn't more that I was you know it became such a thing where I wasn't maybe as present, or I felt like I had to have a drink to have a good time instead of now I enjoy a good conversation, talking to somebody and like getting to know them,
Mhm.
like um I'm really enjoying this conversation actually, getting to know you better, but just like getting to know and like having a real conversation that is not superficial or just you know um I guess I'm trying to think of the right word for it, but you have but there's the thing is you can't beat yourself up about those regrets. All you can do is change. And I think the biggest thing that motivates me now every day, like if I don't feel like going to the gym, I'm still going to the gym because I feel like I owe it to myself, I owe it to my family, I owe it to my God, to make it up for everything, all the wrongs that, I did do before. Now I'm very motivated to like I want to do all the things. Like I feel like I just want to I want to work on things. I'm not perfect and I will never be, but I'm going to keep trying to be a better person. I'm going to keep working on things. I'm going to try to be um you know push myself a little bit harder out of my comfort zone. Um and so I think if we can take our regrets, and rather than be overly sad and discouraged and feel like we're worthless, you know, and can't get over those, if we can use that as motivation and say, like, I'm going to use that, and that's what motivates me every day to, I'm going to make it up and I'm going to prove that I'm not that person anymore, and so like now it's like sometimes I'll hear stories about myself back when I wasn't who I am today. It's like I don't know that person anymore. We ain't friends no more. Um, I still love that guy, but he didn't know what he was doing. He was heading down the wrong path, and it's just like a total different person. I just feel like I've heard it said where like there's people that maybe knew me before that don't know the real me now. Like I'm totally different. There's similarities. There's certain things that I hid a lot. A lot of it was kind of hidden, and I think we try to make ourselves look like everything's great and everything's fine and we're happy and everything, and so, but it's not really how we're feeling. And so like now I just feel so like an authentic person. Like I am a total different person than I was before. And so I'm trying every day to work on that and make it up to anyone that I've ever hurt in the past, um or even, just to myself, like that. And I wish things were different from before. I wish I would have never got to this point, but I just feel it's just been such a life-changing experience that it's like I went through the fire and I'm coming out like really strong, and so it's built my faith up a lot, and it's made me a better person.
Yeah, no, and just going with that obviously there's things that happen or way we treat people or stuff when we go through it, and like it sucks, but that's where you need that little self compassion and kind of keep your focus on what you're doing now, right? Like you just said, you're trying to be a better person. You're trying to do things that are good for you and good for the people around you, and that's really all we can do when we come out of that. Um, and luckily when we are doing that, we give ourselves the opportunity to continue to do that. As long as we don't go back, then we don't have to relive that stuff and do it all over again. And we get to keep pushing our limits, and we get to keep making things better in our life as we go, as we continue that journey of not just stopping drinking but improving the aspects of us in our life, which I think is a big part of that. Um,
I
but
was
yeah, no, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was just one other thing I was just thinking about too, just to briefly touch on it, is have you noticed like, when you're growing up, you have all these goals, like things that you wanted to do in your life and you wanted to become, and you know, and you had aspirations for this and that and be, you know, and I kind of lost my way with that. And now that's another benefit, is that I just feel like my potential is being unleashed again. Like I can, I, there's a lot of goals and things, and a lot of things that are still in front of me that I'm chasing, and um, and I'm confident I'm going to get there. Like it just takes time, and so that was a big that was that's one of the awesome highlight or awesome things about sobriety and recovery, is you can unleash your potential again, and you can get back to dreaming again, dreaming about things that you want to become and who you want to become and what you want to do, and you don't have anything holding you back anymore.
Yeah, no, I love that. Just because you know I remember growing up and doing the things, and even in some of the things I was working towards that growing up. Some of my dreams, so, I loved animals. I wanted to be a vet. That's what I went to college for that first year. I got a college soccer scholarship to go play in college. And I lost passion for all that stuff when my addiction got worse, and I slowly watched all these things I used to love just matter less and less and less. And yeah, my dreams aren't the same as they were when I was growing up, but like you
Yeah.
just said, you feel like you have that potential that is able to come out again, and you have new dreams, you have new goals, and you, I think for me, and I don't know how it is for you, but getting clean and sober and luckily being able to stay that way for so far in my recovery, um, really gives me the belief and mindset that I can do anything. Because that is the one thing I did not ever think I was going to be able to do. And that was the one thing I was super terrified of. I didn't want to go a day without getting messed up. And I firmly believed that I wasn't going to be able to do it. And so it just gives me that mindset that I can go and tackle and try anything. And I'm going to put my best foot forward. And I've been able to prove to myself in different ways that as long as I keep pushing, I keep trying, like I feel like I can do anything after facing that battle of sobriety and addiction, and it just gave me so much more belief in myself.
Yep. Yeah, I could. It's like you took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, as far as that goes, I mean, so yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah, and I just going back to kind of what you said about about the enjoying this conversation. I have been enjoying it thoroughly, and I think a good word for having conversations with people now, as opposed to when I was using. A lot of the times when I went into a conversation while I was getting high or drunk was, okay, how can I use this conversation to get what I need out of it? And now today I can just have a genuine conversation with somebody. And
Yeah.
I can learn I mean, I still want to take something out of it. I still want to learn. I think I can learn something from everybody I talk to. But it's not like, how can I manipulate this into getting what I want or need? And you can just have a genuine conversation with somebody. And that's what I felt like this has been. And, I've really appreciated your time coming on here and doing this. And, I just want to say for anybody listening, I'm going to put Jacob's links in the description. So definitely go check out his page. And, if you need somebody to reach out to or just need some inspiration, I would definitely recommend checking out what he's doing and the message he's putting out there, because it's a really awesome, positive, and hopeful message in there. And, I just, one thing I do like doing is kind of leaving it off with some final words from my guests and from you. So if there's anything that you want to just kind of throw out there to end our conversation with, go ahead.
Well, I'm thinking back to what you kind of had said about, if you can choose to go alcohol free in a world that is completely obsessed with alcohol, you can do anything, and it can be very life changing. And it was life changing for me. It was I had a very serious situation, a health situation that went with it, and so I don't want anyone to ever have to go through that. And so I just want to make clear why I do what I do and why I have the page is to really create awareness, and to encourage and support people that are trying to do it, because I found a lot of great support, talking and listening to people that I could relate with, and everybody's situation is a little bit different, but we can take something a little bit different from it. And I think I think hopefully what you've heard here in our podcast is that it's so awesome on this side, and so I encourage you to give it a shot, because I've seen so many benefits that are beyond. I didn't even relate all the benefits in this, and I'm sure you haven't either. And it's life changing, and just be aware of the dangers of alcohol. And if you're seeing that maybe you have some problems, reach out to a trusted friend, pray about it. You can message me, or if you follow my page at Feel Sober Good, you'll see that that's really what my message is all about, and why I'm doing it.
Yeah, awesome. And just, real quick, and what I've liked about our conversation is it seems very genuine. And, and I appreciate that aspect of it is the feeling I get of that genuine, of like wanting to offer that to people and give that to people and show them, that hope, and that you don't have to hit that point that you hit to be able to change in that way.
Well,
And I
thank you.
think anybody can hear that from listening to you and seeing that. So again, Jacob, I appreciate you, man. I
Yeah.
appreciate you coming on and joining me.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me, and I also will say, anyone in listen there that you also need to check out Brandon's page. He's got a lot of great interviews. What he's doing. Illuminate, navigate, radiate. He's got vast numbers of stories of people that have had gone through journeys and offer a lot of good information there. So I definitely recommend you follow his page too.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. I got to get used to saying that follow, subscribe, like thing as
Yeah.
I go at some point in the video. But yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. It's been a great conversation. And thank you everybody for listening. Appreciate your time as well. And it's been Illuminate, Navigate, Radiate. Have a great rest of your day.